Hello and welcome back to another week of the Korean Beauty Show podcast. I am, of course, your host, Lauren Lee, K-beauty expert, long-term resident of Seoul, South Korea, and your guide to the world of all things K-beauty. And on today's episode, I have got a really big one for you, and I think a lot of you are going to find this one interesting. We are talking about all of the different ways that Koreans treat the signs of aging. Now, why I wanted to do this episode is that I have noticed a little bit of a trend. So obviously now we are well into the hundreds of episodes. We've been going for a while. We have covered so many different things over the last 2 years. Since the show's kind of started, we started off all the way back in 2020 talking about just more generally, some of the key differences between Western beauty and K-beauty. We've done episodes, seasonal ones, about, how to treat your skin in different seasons, different times of the year. We've done a few different ones on the particular skin types. And I have noticed a little bit of a trend, and that is whenever we do an episode that is talking about anything to do with mature skin or anything about aging, that people seem to really enjoy those ones, or certainly click on them and listen to them a lot more than a lot of our other episodes, which leads me to surmise that it is likely that many of you are interested in things to do around treating the signs of aging. Obviously, Koreans in general are very famous for looking a lot younger than they actually are for, a very long time. And I can confirm, having lived here for a while, that it can be really tricky to guess people's age. I've gotten a lot better at it over the years, and now I'm pretty good at sort of picking up on other signs that would suggest how old they are. And that's from things like, what people are wearing, how old their kids are, if they're married or not, or things like that. From kind of social markers, I can usually manage to pick up on what someone's real age might be, because without that, it can be very difficult. Like, honestly, the range can be incredible. Where I'm talking anything from people could be 25 or they could be 40, and it's quite hard to tell. And obviously a lot of the, reason to do with that, when it comes to aging, genetics plays a big part. When it comes to any of our skin, genetics plays a part, but genetics isn't everything. And I think a lot of people are really interested in hearing about what's going on over here, and maybe a bit of a deeper look into, behind the snail mucin, because guys, I can tell you right now, it's not snail mucin. Like, I know that is the product, the ingredient that gets people so excited, particularly in Australia at the moment. It's wild to me, but like all of the top blogs and the things that people are talking about, I'm like, we have been talking about snail mucin since 2014 now, and it is not the only thing that is going on over here. In fact, Korea moved past snail mucin a very long time ago, but that seems to be the thing that sticks out in people's minds. So I thought, we had a little chat a little while ago, a few episodes back, about HIFU, HIFU, which is the sort of ultrasound treatments, the ulcera, and all of those kind of ones that Koreans are doing for lifting, and people were very interested in that. So today I want to have a look at just some of the other things that go into giving Koreans really great skin, and the ways that they do things a little bit differently from the ways that maybe you do it in your country. So that is my plan for today. And obviously, I think, when it comes to the anti-aging market anywhere in the world, it's going to be pretty big. And the same can be said of Korea's market as well. In 2020, it was estimated to be worth at about 1.23 trillion South Korean won. So big business. And, there are just so many different things that people are doing to try and stave off the signs of aging. But the first one, and we've spoken about this many times before, is that in general, the Korean philosophy to skincare and to anti-aging is that prevention is better than a cure. So rather than, like you will see people do in Australia and the US, which is they get to a certain age, they've got a few wrinkles and they're like, oh my God, what can I do? And it's like a mad rush, and you'll see people in Facebook groups go, oh my gosh, I have a wrinkle, what should I do? And they have no idea how to take care of their skin. They've never thought about it before. A lot of them don't even use sunscreen, and they're freaking out. They're just like, this is all news to me. But Koreans start young. How young? Like really, really young, even in babyhood. Now, obviously in babyhood, we're not worried about anti-aging, but what they are doing is getting a skincare routine set up and set in place. If you've ever watched any of the Korean reality TV shows, like maybe Superman Returns or any of the ones that are focused on people caring for kids and babies, you'll notice that Koreans are like in there washing their babies' faces. They're applying lotion all over their face and bodies and doing that really, really regularly. The other thing is, so it starts from that. Kids are taught how to do all of that sort of thing. And it's not considered strange for people to spend time doing this, to, visit a facialist, visit a dermatologist if you need to. Whereas I think in a lot of other countries, there is the perception potentially that going to a dermatologist or maybe having a skin treatment done is a bit of a vanity thing. And that is just not the case in Korea. So the Koreans think of skincare in the same way that I would say Americans, Australians think of things like fitness and nutrition. So no one would bat an eyelid if you told them, oh, look, I'm working on my health at the moment. I'm, adding a few more green smoothies into my diet and I'm hitting the gym a bit more regularly. No one would look at you. And it's the same in Korea for skincare. It's not taboo or weird at all to be like, yep, I'm just going to pop out to the dermatologist and have a facial. Or, yep, I'm just going to go and get my brows microbladed or anything like that. Koreans are super honest and open about procedures that they've had done, about any kind of little beauty treatments, and they'll ask you as well, and it's not considered to be like this big taboo thing. Whereas I think in a lot of Western countries it's kind of like you need to make effort but not look like you're making effort on the outside. Whereas I think in Korea there's just a very, very different way of thinking about skincare as a whole. So, there's a lot more, it's a lot more out in the open. I think that's one of the biggest differences that I've noticed. The other thing, obviously, is the focus on hydration and also on balancing your skin and calming the skin and keeping it in the best environment for itself. And why they do that is because these are all the kind of things that can cause premature aging. So if you're constantly obliterating your skin with like really strong, harsh acids, if you're constantly damaging your skin's barrier and your skin can't repair itself and renew itself, then you are going to notice the signs of aging a lot more quickly. And the same thing if you let your skin dry out. Like a lot of people have said to me, oh, Koreans are almost obsessed with hydrating their skin, like there's so many layers and everything like that. And there's a reason for that. Dry skin is the first to show lines and signs of aging. So when you see people in dramas and things like that, manically spritzing mists and applying balms and layering products, that's part of it is PPL and product placement and advertisements, yes, but there's a truth in that too, and that's because people really do things like that. They wouldn't put it in a drama or a TV show if it was like completely out of the ordinary and just something that no normal person would do. The fact is that people do these things. People are worried about keeping their skin really nice and hydrated, and that is, so much of what goes into the products and, the layering and the different steps and things like that. So all of that, I think, is a really, really big part of it. That, is just not the same in other places for whatever reason, but hydration is so important. The other thing is sun protection. Now, obviously, I think it goes without saying, we have spoken about it so many times on the show, that is the number one anti-aging product you will ever buy, that you will ever apply for your skin, is your sunscreen. There is no better anti-aging product on the market than sunscreen. If you don't have one that you like, then drop everything else, stop listening to this podcast and go and find a product that you enjoy using and that you will use every day, because there's not much point in listening to any other tips if you don't have your sunscreen sorted. Like, that's just, it is what it is, right? That's just facts. Facts right there. So sunscreen, the number one way to shield your skin from fine lines and wrinkles. And, Koreans take it super, super seriously. A lot of the innovation in the sunscreen space does go on in Korea. Obviously, we've got things like the special SPF patches now, which have come onto the market. So, constantly just thinking about new ways that we can apply sunscreen, reapply sunscreen, stay out of the sun. Everything from wearing hats everywhere, parasols, staying under shade if you're in the park, all of those kind of things, wearing longer sleeves if you're going to be driving in the car for a while so that the sun doesn't, get onto your driving arm. These are all things that Koreans do, and it's not unusual at all. Whereas, I remember when I lived in Australia, when I was younger, I actually lived in a part of Brisbane, which is my hometown, that had a lot of Asians. And it would not be unusual to see other Asians walking down the street with an umbrella up in the middle of summer when the sun was out. And, I always have some Australian friends who'd be like, oh, it's not even raining. And I'm like, dude, that's clearly not the point. It's for sun protection. So that was comment worthy in Australia. In Korea, it's totally not. So I think that's a really big difference. And that's something that you can really easily try for yourself at home without any fancy machinery or spending a ton of money. It's just to apply sunscreen. Now, the other thing is that I think when it comes to K-beauty, a lot of the time you will notice that they're not really marked as like anti-aging solutions. Now, there are definitely products that fall into that category, but in general, as a generalization, you will see far, far less focus on things like retinol and the really, really strong acids. And that's because Koreans do prefer to avoid those kind of things. Anything that really dries out the skin, anything that has a lot of different side effects or irritating potential, Koreans generally tend to avoid. Now, obviously, we've been speaking on the show that there are those kind of new products coming onto the market with retinol and bakuchiol and all these kind of things. And I actually think a lot of those releases are more targeted to Westerners and people overseas rather than products that a whole lot of Koreans are going to go out and buy. I think the brands that are doing them, that's also slightly overstating it, but I do think that they are, K-beauty has worldwide appeal now. There are lots of people using Korean beauty products from everywhere. So those kind of ingredients have been added to the lineup probably because of feedback and, things like that from foreign consumers as well. When it comes to the kind of products that you will generally see on the shelves here and sold online and things like that, you will notice the ingredients are quite different. Things like EGF is very, very popular and sold everywhere from skin clinics to hair clinics, products that have EGF in them. Other things that include collagen, peptides, niacinamide, adenosine is an absolute favorite that you will see in so many K-beauty products, idebenone, licorice for brightening, obviously some more common stuff like hyaluronic acid, and then you've got ginseng, which is another category that, a lot of the K-beauty products that get exported, they don't generally tend to move too much into that red ginseng category just because of how expensive that is, and that they don't tend to sell as well overseas. But there are some really, really expensive and luxury premium products on the market here. I think they probably sell better in some parts of Asia like China, but those kind of products are all the kind of things that a lot of people here will use, as well as recipes based off hanbang ingredients. So the kind of things that will be prescribed at the Haniwon, which is Oriental Medicine Clinic. There's a whole lot of lines like that. A lot of the more luxury, mature skin focused lines in Korea will have those kind of ingredients in them. And most of those, the vast majority of those, are not sold overseas. Certainly in Western countries, I just don't think there's the same kind of appetite for it. I'm not too sure about the Middle East. I know we have a lot of listeners in the Middle East. I'm not sure if those kind of products are selling well over there, but they do tend to sell better in other places in Asia, particularly places that have the common heritage of Chinese backgrounds and traditions and medicine and things like that. Those kind of products tend to sell the best there. So I'm going to do a separate episode later down the track about some of my favorite anti-aging ingredients in K-beauty, but that is just, I guess, a long-winded way of saying that the products really are not entirely marketed as, some kind of way to turn back the clock. They're really to support you in doing your hydration and all of those other steps. The other big thing is obviously the focus on barrier care and, repairing your damaged skin barrier, calming the skin down. That's the vast majority of products, particularly at the moment because of COVID. Chinjong is what those products are called in Korea. Like literally just to try and calm, soothe, to make the skin, supple again, less dry, less dull, less flaky, less red. Because if the skin's barrier is damaged, then there's not much you can do in terms of the anti-aging side of things, because you need a strong barrier. That's kind of like the starting point, is strong, healthy skin. If the skin is damaged or disrupted in any way, then that is just, there's not that much that you can do for it. So that's a super big focus on a lot of the products here as well. Then we've started speaking about it on the show, but there's a whole range of clinical treatments that people do here in Korea, and they're not considered to be outlandish or wild or like, oh my God, I can't believe people do that. Again, because going to see a dermatologist, it's so much cheaper than it is in other countries. Then there's also estheticians clinics as well. So a lot of people will go, particularly people that have a little bit more time on their hands, maybe middle-aged women that their kids are in school and they don't have a full-time job. It's not unusual for those women to go to the esthetician once every twice a week, and they'll have hydrating facials, they'll have mini laser treatments and things like that. Not everyone is super into it, but the people that can do, and the treatments are so much cheaper than they are in other countries. So what kind of treatments are people doing? Obviously, some of the stuff that we are doing here in Korea is similar to other countries. So obviously things like the vampire facial, the Kardashians did that on one of their shows many years ago, the PRP. So that's the one where they basically take out your own blood, they filtrate it, and then they inject it back into your skin. It's supposed to have a lot of benefits to plumping up, making your skin brighter and things like that. I actually did try this right before I got married, a couple of months before I got married. So quite a while ago now, we're going on nearly 7 years ago back in Australia. Guys, I personally didn't rate it. I didn't think it did anything. I think I maybe had 1 or 2 of it. And I absolutely cannot stand blood and needles. So for me to get this done, I was just like, oh God, I will do anything to look better on my wedding day. And, even the having to give blood thing, like I'm the kind of person that faints giving blood. So already this was not really a kind of procedure that I could see myself doing regularly at all. I didn't really see the benefit of it, but it is popular here, so I can tell you that. Other things that are popular here, the skin Botox and baby Botox. So skin tox here is basically what they're doing is they are using Botox, but not in the typical way. Normally when Botox is injected, it's injected in large enough amounts to freeze the muscle. That's why you see less lines. But when they're doing it with the skin tox, they're not doing it deep into the layers of the skin. It's at a superficial layer. And essentially what they're trying to do there is reduce your pore size, which obviously gives you a natural lifting effect, and then also improve some really fine lines. So that's another really popular one. A lot of celebrities and people who are on TV will have that done. That's obviously going to make an actual difference to your pores, which a lot of other treatments can have minimal effect on the pores depending on what they are. So that's another really, really popular one. We spoke a couple of months back about HIFU, like Ulthera and Thermage, which are like treatments essentially to stimulate the collagen in your skin to help prevent laxity, crepiness, jowling, all of those kind of things. They're two quite similar procedures. Thermage is using radio frequency, Ulthera is using ultrasound energy, but they're basically stimulating new collagen so that your own skin can actually repair and renew itself, which is something that a lot of topical products can't do. So those kind of things are very, very popular in Korea, and dermatologists and whatnot, all the people that work at dermatologists' offices, if you ask them what they get done, I almost guarantee you that most of the people that working there will do these treatments on a semi-regular basis, once a year or twice a year or something like that. And I'm actually working to try and get a couple of local dermatologists onto the podcast and actually talk through some of their favorite treatments as well. So stay tuned for that. That is a work in progress. Hopefully we can have something like that for you guys already soon, but just stay tuned for that update as well. Now, the other thing that really freaked me out when I first moved here, because I hate injections, like I told you guys, was that people regularly go to the skin clinic and have all sorts of different injections done to improve their skin's appearance. So these are not injections that are necessarily into your face. These are almost like vitamin injections and things like that. So I remember one of the girls in the office when I first moved over here, she was telling me that, she was going to go and have one done to improve, basically to make her skin brighter. So there are so many different types. You can get glutathione injected, which obviously can deactivate tyrosinase, which is the enzyme that creates pigment in our skin. Then you can do things like aqua injection, which has collagen in it that can basically soften your wrinkles. It's hydrating and things like that. There's another one called Dermashine, and that one uses like a microneedle gun to plunge a whole lot of different things into your skin surface. Sometimes Botox, sometimes vitamin C, hyaluronic acid. The Chanel injection is another really popular one. That's basically got amino acids, hyaluronic acid, lots of different vitamins, A, B, C, E. And that one they do inject into the face for brighter, plumper skin. There's Rejurin, and that one is a popular one that has salmon DNA in it. Salmon DNA is, how's this for weird? Salmon DNA is a 95% match for human DNA. Riddle me that one. Anywho, it has anti-inflammatory and skin repairing properties as well. So that one's another really, really popular one. Obviously your mileage will vary depending on if you like to get injections, but these are available in other countries as well. I know particularly the glutathione injections are also popular in places like the Philippines. So Korea is not the only place doing these, but this is a really popular one, series of things that people like to get if they're into that kind of thing. Thread lifts is another one, and Korea is a pioneer in the thread lift technology. There are a lot of companies that have patents for different lifts, types of thread lifts that are sold throughout the world, and Korean doctors are very, very good at doing this. And they're used to treat basically mild to moderate skin laxity, so they're not suitable for you if you need an actual facelift. But if you're seeing some signs of premature aging, then thread lifts can help and boost collagen as well. So that's another really, really popular one that's quite cheap here. It really depends where you go. Sometimes when I do episodes like this, people sort of slide into my DMs asking for pricing, and I'd say that really depends on a couple of different things. If you are wanting to get any kind of treatment here in Korea, if you're trying to budget for it, know this: if you go to a really, really big clinic or plastic surgery center that has lots of different departments that speak different languages, then the price is going to be higher. Basically, the international clinics that cater specifically to tourists and foreigners that are coming to Korea for the purposes of a beauty trip, or plastic surgery or something like that, the price is going to be one on the higher end compared to the smaller local clinics. But if you don't speak Korean and you don't know where else to go, I think that they can be a really good option for people. I know some of them have like airport pickup services and things like that. I've known people over the years that have worked at places like that, like for example as a Thai language translator for the people coming from Thailand. So that's a really, really big business. There are lots of options like that you can go and search in English or whatever language you speak, Thai, maybe Russian. I've seen a lot of these clinics post signs and whatnot in lots of different languages, Chinese, Japanese. So that is one option for going to get all of those things done. Another option is a smaller skin clinic. Some of those speak English and are popular amongst foreigners living here that don't speak Korean. But the cheapest pricing that you will get anywhere in Korea is going to be the one that you can go to with someone that speaks Korean. So if you have a Korean friend or whatnot, get them to ring up whoever they normally go to and make an appointment for you and go with you, and you will get a really good price. That's just the way it works here. There is a foreigner tax, for want of a better word, a premium price that you will pay if you have a concierge service in your own language. But if you want to go and get that done, and it also is cheaper than it is in your home country, then probably it doesn't really matter. But that's all I will say on pricing. It really depends. It depends if they've got a special offer going, a discount. Some places offer discounts if you buy, a pack of treatments, a set of treatments or things like that. So you really will just have to, have a look around, do some research at the time that you're going. It's basically how long is a piece of string. But in general, it will be very much cheaper than it is compared to places like the States, Singapore, Australia, anywhere like that. It's just going to be miles and miles cheaper. I think you can safely say that. The other thing that is going on here, and it is still in its infancy, is regenerative medicine. So these are things like stem cell transfusions. Korea, as you will probably not be surprised to hear, is leading the way on advanced regenerative medicine. And it's actually got an act in place to try and basically, improve public health and prepare a safe system for the management, support, commercialization of regenerative medicine. So there's approved products that are on the market for these kind of things. And the idea with like stem cells in general is that they can help to repair injured tissues and do all kinds of different really cool things like produce more blood vessels, strengthen the function of your cells and things like that. So there are some local clinics here that specialize in the use of stem cells for, therapeutic purposes, to improve things like elasticity and all of this kind of thing. So here's a little tidbit of information for you. The former president of Korea, the one that went to jail not too long ago, President Park Geun-hye, one of the things that came into the media at the time that she was basically taken, out of power was that she had been going to a Gangnam clinic and receiving stem cell transfusions, but illegal ones that had not been approved yet by the government. And so that was a whole big thing in the media, was that she'd been going because she had beautiful, beautiful skin too. And she was a lady that was not that young. I think being in jail for the last couple of years, I've seen photos of her more recently. She's not looking her best, which I think we can probably forgive her for. I'm not sure jail is a particularly great place for anyone, but suffice to say that was a whole big to-do because people were like, well, how dare she can get the stem cells and we can't get them? Where, that was a whole big thing. So that's another thing. I'm not sure how many people, I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone that's had that done before. It is still an area of the industry that is in its infancy, but there's a lot being done on that. And there are a lot of products that are entering the market with things like stem cells in them as well. Stem cells from things like salmon and whatnot, not necessarily humans. But that kind of stuff is just a lot harder to sell overseas because of the differing regulations and things like that around it. So they might not be as easy to get your hands on. But that is just, in a 30-minute nutshell, the kinds of things that are going on here. Now, that's not to say that everyone in Korea goes out and gets all of these treatments and that everyone's, getting injections every second week and things like that. But these are all possible. They're all accessible here. If you are into skincare or whatnot, these are some of the kind of things that people are doing for their skin. So I think, obviously the skincare aspect of it is a really, really big and important one. But there's also no shame in Korea in going and having some of these other kinds of treatments, even if it is just things like, facials a little bit more regularly than your average Westerner would. Still, even today, I think in many countries, a facial is like seen as a little bit of a treat. Like, maybe you get given a gift voucher for Mother's Day or something like that. It's like, go and treat yourself, have a nice facial. Whereas for some Koreans, it's like, well, I can go more often than that. And, that's not a thing. I don't need to worry about that. For $50, $100, I can go and have, a facial done once a month if I want to. And that's not seen as, super extravagant or over the top or vain or anything like that. It's just like that's part of your skin management. In addition to the stuff you're doing at home, you can do stuff like that as well. So that is what is going on here. I hope that some of those have been interesting to you. I know they certainly were to me when my eyes were opened, let's just say, when I got over here and saw just the sheer volume of different options that are available. There is just so much on the market, coming onto the market all the time. And Korea really is leading the way with all of this kind of stuff. I just think that, the emphasis that the culture has on taking care of the skin and body is just a bit different from everywhere else. And that is why there are so many studies and all of this kind of thing being done all the time. So that is all I had for you guys today. I'm going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed this episode and would like to hear more, make sure that you stay subscribed. If you have a friend or someone that that might be interested in any of these, I would love for you to pass it on to them. And in the meantime, I will see you on Style Story.